So the collage that I'm going to make today is on this side. This is a representation of kind of death and rebirth, of reconstruction from deconstruction. And what I've done, what I've used already, and I'm making this sort of vague heart shape, and I've been using to start with these papers. These are coffee filter papers, and these are what I use when I'm making paint. So this one is made red cabbage, that's red cabbage paint. That one was buddleia. This one, actually both of these are elderberry and blackberry. This is when I was just filtering out the dye, and obviously filtering out, you can just see, I think there's some little bits of elderberry stuck to it. But when I add the alum and washing soda to turn it into a paint, it goes this lovely purple. So I've been using those and pulling those apart and tearing those up to create this kind of heart shape. And then I've got some other little bits and pieces over here. I've got some little bits of map that I had been using for something else. These are just leftovers. And I think I might use those and kind of giving that sort of sense of transformation and a journey. I think the journey between the death and rebirth. I've got some, this was beetroot, actually beetroot paint that I made. So I've got some of these little swirly bits that for me kind of represent, in a way, the sort of the vortex that we go into in doing that kind of death and rebirth process and that transformation. This one is a little bit of the elderberry again. And then I've got some other bits and pieces of paper. This was some wrapping paper that I've just been using to wrap up some presents. And I just love the little sparkle bit, that sort of sense of firework. And I like the idea of tearing some of that up and using it in this as well. So in a moment, I'm going to pause and stick this down so we can sort of make a start with building up the layers. The glue that I usually use is Coccacina, and I like this because it is non-toxic and biodegradable. However, you can also use just a ordinary glue stick or Mod Podge. Mod Podge is good as well. So I've now stuck down all of the coffee papers and added a few more little bits and pieces in to kind of fill in the gaps. So, and I've been thinking about how I want to then take this to the next stage. And I've got some bits and pieces here that I've been fiddling with. So I think I'd like a piece of map in there. This is Limerick to Tipperary. It's just kind of thinking about the journey and the fact that the journey is it's not a kind of straight line. It's not a single route even. There are many routes. And many roads that we will go on and that we can go on. And then I have these little pieces here. I like my vortex, and I like the idea of the little fireworky things coming out of the vortex. So, and I'm thinking I might just put those along here with the map. Thinking I might put those there. I have some words that I've been playing with. I wanted some gratitude in there, so I think thanks a million will go very nicely up there. And I do not follow the rules. That is so true. So I think maybe we'll pop that down there. I did like the idea of this, but it's too big for this piece. So I have got another bit here with love. Maybe I'll use the whole thing. Gifts of love as well as not following the rules. Well, let's try that and see. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to make a picture here. What I'm doing is just following my nose, following a process, allowing the process to come up with the end piece, whatever that turns out to be. So let's stick some of these down. I'm using a bit of Mod Podge for this because it's a little bit better when you're creating a lot of layers, I find, than the other glues. But we'll give it a go. So there we have it so far. I'm just wondering if there's anything else I want to add to this. I may just leave it alone for a little while and come back to it later. It's something I frequently do, is do it a little bit in stages. You don't have to do everything all at once. And sometimes I'll come back and look at it and go, oh, actually, I didn't really like that, and then I'll paste something else over the top. That's the joy of collage, because you can just create layers. So if you don't like something that you've done, you just put something else over the top of it. You're also not trying to create an image necessarily. What you're doing with this process, and it is all about the process, not really about the outcome. What you're doing with this process is just following your intuition, following what feels right, just creating something that represents something that is going on for you, or sometimes even just putting it down and seeing what happens, without actually having any idea what might come out of it. So I just noticed also on my table of bits that I have these pieces of dried ground elder, and I love these because they're very much representative of death and rebirth, all in the same thing. So obviously the flower has died, the plant has died, it's all dried out. You can see the sort of the dried leaf, but the seeds are here, and the seeds obviously represent new life and rebirth. So I think I'm going to find a way of incorporating that. So let me have a play with that and we'll see what happens. I've left this for a while and come back to it. I decided that this wasn't working. It wasn't doing what I felt I wanted it to do. So I have torn up a little bit of this Budlier coffee filter paper and put a few pieces of that in here. This for me kind of just softens up this straight edge here a bit, and it also picks up the green and the yellow. I wasn't entirely happy with this very straight edge here, but then I remind myself that life sometimes gives us hard edges as well as nice soft torn ones, so I put up with that. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to drink my coffee. Maybe I'll do something more with it, maybe I won't.